And as we mentioned before we went to the break, it is the eve of yet another Labor Day observance, birthed out of the Butler oilfield riots of 1937. At the time, as we know, workers were challenged by poor working conditions imposed by employers over a number of years. June 19th is the anniversary of the riots, and this year marks the 48th observance as a holiday. The pandemic forced a change in the working environment globally. Whether it's about working from home or enduring extended working hours for essential workers, safety concerns and economic concerns for the working class are top priority as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. And to give us a sense of the immediate observations and concerns under their purview are Antonia de Freitas, the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Unified Teachers Association, Stuart, the president of the TNT Registered Nurses Association, and Shiraz, a member of the TNT Farmers Union. Good morning and welcome to all of you.
Good morning. Thank you for having us. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you
Good morning all.
We're happy that you're all able to make it in these rather exceptional times. Antonia, I'd like to begin with you. If you could tell us a little bit about the reactions, your own reactions and your union's reactions to the announcement of the daytime curfew being extended into this Labor Day holiday. I don't think it would have come as a surprise that the government took this position, but how does it affect your plans and what you all were planning to do? I know a number of union heads had planned to be down at Faizabad in Charlie King Junction while everybody looked on virtually. How has your union responded to that move by the government?
Well, Arlene, as you said, it did not come as a surprise. And as you read the captions for the nuggets out of the back page of the Express in terms of the West Indies team making adjustments to be able to garner success. The trade union movement, JTUM, we have made adjustments in keeping with the protocols and in keeping with what are the provisions of the state of emergency. So tutors, as a part of JTUM, we are ready to participate in whatever activity legally without breaking the law that JTUM has embarked upon for Labor Day tomorrow, please God. The reality is whether you have a massive commemoration with a march or you have a scaled down version, as the case may be, caused by the circumstances, the labor movement is alive and well, it's vibrant. And as you mentioned, there are many, many issues that we can address. And if we have more time in the program this morning, I am sure my comrades and I will be able to ventilate quite a few of them, from health and safety to terms and conditions.
What are some of those plans afoot for tomorrow's commemoration?
I would encourage Trinidad and Tobago to stay tuned. Definitely you will not see us on the streets because of course that is illegal, but we will be putting out our usual activities in terms of reaching out to membership, reaching out to the public, and showing in alternative ways solidarity with one another as unions.
I described the commemoration of tomorrow's observance as somewhat muted in light of everything that's happening. Would you say that the observance is a bit muted because of what we're experiencing, or do you get the sense that there is still a sense of enthusiasm by members?
For members of a trade union, I think there will always be enthusiasm because there will always be an understanding of the value of trade unions, of the value of such organizations in our country. In these times when you have the pandemic raging and you've had extended working hours, you've had job losses, you've had issues of food security, we recognize that regardless of how it's commemorated, whether on the streets or not, we as the union movement, as a labor movement, have a role to play and continuously sensitizing the public about not only our issues as individual unions, but as the movement as a whole. Good. There are global trends that have affected us, and as JTUM, we are taking note of that and we are acting accordingly. And I'm sure my colleagues would be able to expand in their own contexts what is the highlight of the commemoration tomorrow, please.
Stuart, you have been featured very prominently throughout this pandemic because of the interest group you're representing. Tell us what special messages you and your union, or your association rather, are coming with on this particular observance.
Like the rest of my colleagues, we would have forward our issues to our President General, Comrade Ansel Roger, so he would be carrying some of our messages that we would have delivered if we were in Faizabad on the 19th. So, and our issues are wide-ranging. They are deep and concerning for the association. One would really need to stand back as a union and reflect on how this year has been, and more so how this decade has been. For the last 10 years, it has really been a struggle for the working class in Trinidad and Tobago. Even when we watch what has happened to nursing from the minute I entered this profession to present, I could definitely say the employment practices has actually gotten worse over the last 10 years. And that is really a signal to the labor movement. When you watch other unions, it has really been a difficult challenge for them as well. Those in the steel, those in oil, the TSTT workers, Hilton workers. So it has really been a very difficult year, but however, we have to channel those difficulties into benefits. Some of the reasons why the labor movement journey to South on a yearly basis on June 19th really has to do with some of the challenges we are facing today, why it came about. So it really is an eye-opener, and it's really not for the labor movement to shun this period in time, but really to take it upon our shoulders and come out on the other end much stronger than we were when we first came in.
Shiraz, you have been a very active and vocal member of the Farmers Union. You were even president for a period of time. I am wondering, in your participation, in your very active participation in the labor movement over the years, do you feel like this time around in 2021, you have a sense that it's a more exceptional period as far as grievances go, as far as threats to workers' livelihoods go?
Okay, pleasant morning again to you, Arlene. Before I give my presentation, I want to pay some respect to one of our former National Olympic participant, Mr. Leonard Stuart, our teacher from the Shiraz Senior Com, who passed away yesterday. Condolences to his family and his friends. He represented Trinidad and Tobago in the Munich Olympics in 1972. I don't know how much people remember him or know of him, but he was one of our teachers, mentors. We used to call him Stuarty, and my condolences to his family. And he's also the father of, I think was 2020, I think, Groovy Monarch. That's the father of Schoolboy Jesse. So
College Boy Jesse, yes.
A good soul, you know.
Thank you very much for that, Shiraz.
Yeah, you know, when somebody touched you when you were small and growing up and being miserable and always there for you, you know, you respect those and love those people. So I want to give him his respect, and thank God that today I'm here so I can share that with him, for him, you know. Adine, since I become involved in leadership into the agriculture sector, we go back way back into the 1980s with the Farmers Cooperative Society, when we had the march through Port of Spain for some of our rights, our freedom, of our assistance that was internationally known as the share to farmers. Since that to now, our agriculture sector, privately on people's own intuition, has grown. But in terms of the administration, from government to government, from way back when then to now, we have deteriorated in respecting and developing our agriculture as a state. Hence our reason why every year you hear the budget talks about a continuous increasing of $1 billion in the food import bill. And no serious attempt has been made to do that, but just lip service. And we continue to have those difficulty in growing as a country rather than individuals. And I think it is very unfortunate because here, Edie talk about since he joined nursing, it has deteriorated. All these sectors in the country that ordinary people that support this country, but yet we don't pay respect because it's the ordinary people that keep this country going from producing oil. Well, you know, they close down the refinery.
Shiraz, Shiraz, I do want to ask you though, just on the point, because I did ask specifically about whether this year, this period in which we find ourselves in this pandemic, proves more so exceptionally challenging for workers compared with previous years and previous situations in which we found ourselves. Do you feel like there is something exceptional about the state of workers, farmers, whichever sector of the trade union movement we're referring to, or the labor movement?
Yeah, we feel exceptional because I, in my personal view, and some of the views of my comrades, we feel that this is being vindictive movement on the state, on the labor movement, because what happening is that the Prime Minister went out onto a union busting attitude. It started off way back in 2008, and it seems like in 2015 and 2010, it all continue. And we feel that it is going to be a difficult thing for us to really with this pandemic, because one of the things that we always do is fight for our members, fight for our other comrades, because we join together as the joint trade union movement. But it's going to be something very very difficult to understand, but we have to live with the laws. It is a global, it is not only Trinidad and Tobago, but we say that we continue to fight because one day there's a song we sing, we shall overcome. And in my honest view, because Aline, you have been down to Labor Day, you know it is an energy. It's something of energy and so on, bringing people together. And the last 2 years we have suffered, and this year I think it was very vindictive of the Prime Minister to treat the labor movement like he's treating us now. When in 2015 we were his hottest thing on the market. It was. But
how is it vindictive, Shiraz? What exactly about the Prime Minister's actions would you describe as vindictive?
Okay.
I mean, because you do appreciate that he's in a difficult position. I think we all accept that.
I think so, yes. But I mean to say, you look at what was taking place from the time of the petrotrain closure, right? The petrotrain closure, the dealing of the unions, we have had no results in negotiation. Ask Edie how long he has been working with when last he got an increase in any sort of a respect or remuneration or anything like that. His condition has worsened, right? Tutor has everything that we have to fight for it. Nothing is given to us in the trade union movement in terms of social justice and equity.
Okay, I'd like to.
We fight for everything.
I would like to.
We don't ever, when we go to the table, right? You put NTAC in place to solve that problem. Has there bring any results? Has NTAC bring any results to us?
Right, and I'm glad you. I'm glad you brought that up, Shiraz. I would like to ask Antonia, what is the value of having, well, or not participating in a body like NTAC that is set up to address these specific issues?
Aline, when you look at what happened or what has happened globally from the pandemic, when the pandemic started in 2020 to now, in a number of jurisdictions, recovery and plans for recovery have been successful because of social dialogue, because the principle of tripartism, where you have the state, the corporate sector, the labor movement partnering in a meaningful way. In Trinidad and Tobago, we have had, as Shiraz said, persons who have been exploited, persons who've lost jobs, and that has been exacerbated during COVID. The NTAC that was established, or that has been established, was supposed to be the vehicle to allow the social dialogue and allow recovery. But when you have the labor movement showing up to the meeting, you have some of the business sector showing up to the meeting, but the attendance by the persons from the government has been scant, and therefore you don't have a quorum at the meetings to do the business and make the decisions. It makes you wonder how meaningful or how committed are these persons, is the state, to the issue of social dialogue and therefore to ensuring that not only workers' rights and the terms and conditions are upheld, but that the country recovers from the blow of the pandemic.
Antonia,
So JTM took the decision, the trade union movement took the decision. When you are ready to talk with us in a meaningful way and hear what we have to say, we will be ready to engage. When you look at the document that was put out of that committee for recovery, there is nothing that was proposed by the trade union movement enshrined in that document. And we were not asking for wage increases and so forth at that point in time. We are mindful of the scenario, but you're looking for things in the hope that the working class would benefit, would not suffer. How can you tell a parent, Adi, whose child is doing exams, the parent who has lost the job or who is on reduced hours, well, listen, live like normal and have your children engage in education like normal? That can't happen. It's survival first. So that the trade union movement's withdrawal from NTAC was a sign to the government, we are not satisfied with your interaction. And would you believe that rather than saying to the trade union movement, listen, we hear you, what can we do? We were sent a threatening letter, come back to the table or else.
Well, Antonia, we will get back to this. Antonia, Shiraz, and Eddie, we will return to this and some of the more specific issues affecting each of your memberships. But for now, we pause there and we remind you of the COVID-19 protocols. We, of course, implore you to wear a mask over your nose and mouth when you go out in public. Keep your distance from others, that's 6 feet. Stay home if you are ill. Wash your hands often with soap and water or use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer. Of course, we have so much more for you after the break with this interview with our labor leaders and representatives. Stay with us. Welcome back, and we are continuing our discussion this morning with Antonia de Freitas of Tutor, Shiraz Khan of the Farmers Union, and Eddie Stuart of the Registered Nurses Association. Eddie, we return to you at this point, and we want to ask you how the nurses have been faring during the vaccination drive. What kinds of things have been put in place to ensure that they are also being protected and considered throughout this campaign led by the government to vaccinate the population? Eddie, are you there?
I think we lost Eddie.
Yeah,
okay. Okay, well, Shiraz, maybe we'll go to you, because what's also on the minds of many people is the fact that they can't go to the market this weekend. However, we did see that there was a proposal to have the farmers go to the market today, Friday, but that has been rejected.
Yeah, well, okay. You know, it's very difficult sometimes when the minister, Camille Regis Robinson, said that, you know, she spoke to farmers in the east and north, and they all agree to stay away from the market. And additionally, when she speak to the farmers in the central and south, they were objecting. I mean to say, sometimes you understand that the red and yellow politics is really, you know, ridiculous. Most of the farmers that participate in the Port of Spain market, even the Diego Martin market or the Santa Cruz market, the farmers market that is on Saturday and Sunday, 50% of them come from the central or the south area. So we have this problem where since the farmers market started way back when, farmers produce for that, because farmers can be all week like in a municipal market. So they prepare for the farmers market on Saturday and Sunday with either one of their family members or friends selling for them and them kind of thing. You come with something on Friday, because if you're closing down on Friday at 7 p.m. this evening, so could someone go to the market and still sell anything in any convenience? Also, you are shutting on 10 o'clock on Saturday, and so that is out of the business. Farmers need to be able to sell their produce, because let me tell you something. When you have a non-perishable item, you can do anything with it. But when you have a perishable item, it is difficult for you to revisit. Take, for instance, tomato, right? Iron centrals, I could say tomato. you say tomato otherwise. If you have to reap tomato, because you have to reap tomato this week here, would the farmers have storage, cold storage to put it in, to take it out next week? You have products coming out next week also. It would be the NAMDEFCO buy our produce of this week and keep it in cold storage for when there's a problem. You just shut it down, but you didn't put anything in place. You didn't have no discussion with the organizations, whichever one you choose to talk with, and see how we could work it out. You just come and tell us that you're shutting down. But you didn't say, well, all right, farmers, if you have produce that is perishable for this weekend that you cannot handle, why don't you bring it to the NAMDEFCO cold storage space and bring it and let us, let the NAMDEFCO either purchase it and put it out sometime else. We just do things like without thinking about the ordinary people. So I am saying is that if you were going to close off for this weekend, it wouldn't have happened on Thursday, Friday when you tell the people. On Saturday, you would have this. So why didn't you have discussion before? And you could have said, okay, all the farmers who have their produce and it's perishable, that you have to pick it, you have to reap. Look, there's the cold storage. We are giving you free cold storage for this week until next weekend. Could those discussions took place? You just say that the farmers agree to shut down. Come on, people.
Thank you, Shiraz.
Always be using politics to satisfy the situation when some of us don't care. We don't care nothing about the
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Shiraz. Antonia, can we talk a little bit about how the teachers are faring? We know that there have been lots of problems with the delay in SEA exams in particular. We know that CSEC got underway very recently. How are teachers coping with the additional pressures, the expectations of them delivering the syllabus over an extended period or working with children, and of course the objections that have also arisen to teachers of the same schools invigilating go ahead, continue. I just realized that I'm asking too many things at once. So go ahead with the question about the preparation for the exam.
It can actually be taken under one umbrella heading in terms of health and safety. Because in terms of how teachers are faring, we would consider mental health. The fact that in almost all circumstances, the work-life balance has been disrupted. That has been established since March of last year, and it's continued. In some instances, it's even worsened because the teachers who are teaching students due for examinations, either at primary or secondary level, they have now been doing double duty to not only have the students prepared for the exam, but to keep the students in a frame of mind that they would not be demotivated, too stressed by all that is going on, because it is a scary thing for students. Adults find this pandemic difficult to navigate. Can you imagine how children feel about it? So mental health has been impacted. The teachers have suffered quite a bit. In terms of getting the job done, as I said, they've been trying to do it to the best of their ability, and they must be commended for that. But at the end of the day, as we move towards the examinations, I want to reference something that took place yesterday, a very horrible situation where the Ministry of Education, having undertaken to administer CXC's exams and having done the necessary documentation for personnel from the ministry to conduct the examinations at a school in the Victoria district, you have police officers seeing the young people gather to do their practicals, their PE practicals. Two different sets of police officers stopped and inquired what they were doing there. The first said they were showing the documentation. Okay, this is why we're here. This is what we are doing. The students are socially distanced. They left. But then somebody else comes in, another officer comes in and threatens to lock up the students, the Ministry of Education official and their teacher. Despite the information being given, despite the documentation being provided. Now, that is something significant for us as educators, because it says that what tutor had been asking for in the first instance, which is you have the public health regulations in place, which the officer, the Ministry of Education official and the teacher were adhering to. But now you have the provisions of the state of emergency. What kind of engagement took place to ensure that there was alignment between the two so that this scenario would not happen.
Right. So it's a question of
Students to function going forward.
yes, it's
So
a question of how we join up the
health and
dots.
safety is a challenge.
Yes, yeah, we do appreciate that. I know we are just out of time for this interview, but we're happy to have Eddie back with us. And Eddie, what has been the feedback from the nurses with respect to the new and improved vaccination drive, which we understand has been going very smoothly? Has that been the response or the feedback from them?
There are two sets of vaccination drives. You have the mass vaccinations drives being conducted by private sector, public sector partnership. Then you have the smaller groups, the 50 per day, that is being conducted within the health centers. So those two are actually going quite well. Actually, the association has proposed to the government a joint venture to really get our members vaccinated and their families vaccinated. So that has been put on the minister's desk, along with some of our partners, the group of professional associations, the midwives associations, Red Cross. So we are seeking to supplement and add to what the government is doing, and we do look for a favorable response, because a number of our members, as you would expect, rely on their elderly relatives to take care of their children at this time, seeing that
Thank you very much.
Are closed. Mm-hmm.
No, thank you very much, Eddie. We do appreciate everything you've had to say. Of course, there's never enough time to talk about all the issues taking place within your various sectors. All of you, of course, being uniquely affected by the restrictions of this time in particular and the pandemic more broadly speaking. We will continue, of course, to facilitate your views and concerns on this and many of our other media here via TV6 and The Express, etc. In the meantime, we have an image for you of Vashti Raj of Scott's Road. A delightful image here of a flowering plant. And now it's time for a commercial break. The Minister of Public Utilities and MP for Lopino Bonia West, Marvin Gonzalez, joins us next.
Well,